Hey, this is Chris from Adventure Cow, and you're listening to the Bamsters podcast, where Bam has promised to ask me no fewer than 5 questions about bacon.
Hello guys, and welcome back. Welcome back to another show. Guys, today with me is the best person on the planet, Yo Jolly Roger, and we have got some news for you today. Jolly, say hi.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And I'm kind of curious, what's this news you're talking about?
Right, news. Jolly, we're only going to discuss 2 topics because this interview that we had with Chris from Adventure Car takes us time, so we're moving on that bit. So, 2 topics, one from me, one from you, and my topic today is, dude, bacon.
Specific kind of bacon? Like, what about bacon?
Bacon. Apparently, America has a problem with bacon.
How so? Like, we have bacon on everything.
Yes, and apparently, your bacon pigs, your bacon tree, apparently, is not fat enough. So, mate, you need to go outside and water and feed your bacon tree. Seriously, dude. You can't have bacon without fat. And you know you've got to share the love with the bacon tree, bro.
Where do you get off saying something in America is not fat enough?
Well, believe it or not, there's this article on the Wall Street Journal, or the Journal of the Wall Street, or the Journal of the Street Wall, whatever you want to call it. We know how...
And how did you come to read the Wall Street Journal, is what I want to know.
Well, I'm looking for topics to discuss, and I want to know the validation and how accurate their studies are, because apparently bacon... There's not enough fat on bacon, apparently, and I'm like, hang on. For America, how accurate is this article? Because bacon is bacon. How can you justify a pig not being fat? You know, the poor bacon tree needs some love too. So, Jolly, go love your bacon tree.
I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of bacon, but I'll eat it. But I don't see how you could say we have skinny bacon.
Apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, we all know the accuracy of their reportings. We all know they're incredibly accurate. Apparently, your bacon isn't fat enough, mate. You know, you guys have skinny bacon.
Well, see, that's efficiency. We don't... That's more like what it is. Like, when they're cutting the bacon, like, they just slice it thin as they can get it. That way they can get more out of the bacon tree.
I don't think that's the case. The leaves of the bacon tree are plucked ceremoniously. You know, I don't think for 1 second that this article is accurate, because I've been to a few bacon plantations and nothing but glorious trees for miles and miles.
Where are these plantations you speak of?
Oh, in America somewhere. In America, wherever you guys grow your bacon plantations, dude. I've been there. Loved it. Loved it. Got free bacon. It was great.
Like free-range bacon?
Free-range bacon, yes.
I'm guessing these plantations weren't in the South, because we learned not to do that kind of thing these days.
No, Jolly, no. They were in Central America, where there was a lovely bacon plantation, and the trees were delicious. I had myself some bark. I had myself some fruit on the bacon tree. I had myself some leaves. It was delicious. See, I'm a vegan too. See, when it comes to the bacon tree, I'm a vegan too. Ultimately, it was what I'm getting at.
You could say I'm a vegetarian, I guess, if you put it that way.
We're all vegetarians, especially when it comes to bacon, because we all know bacon is the... Can't keep a straight face with us. We all know bacon is the tree of life, and without the tree of life, we are nothing. So, Jolly, I'm humbled to take nourishment from the bacon tree. But seriously, dude, you need to go to your bacon tree outside in your back garden and water the thing, please, and give it some food. Seriously, bro, not enough fat on your bacon tree, dude. There's a problem.
Talking about bacon trees, have you seen that Netflix TV show or movie, I should say? It's like OKJY or JA or something like that. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
Okay, tell me.
Essentially, there's a company and they want to create like a super pig. Like, you would have to look, and they've genetically modified this pig cow thing, and they get a bunch of little babies and they send them all over the world, and they have a contest to see which farmer in which part of the country or which country could actually get their cow pig thing the biggest and the healthiest. And that's essentially the whole movie. Like, they just go around to these little farms and they see which one has gotten this cow pig to be the biggest. And I think it'd be right up your alley.
I think I'm going to go to Netflix and look for it now. Cool. Jolly, what is your news item for today?
Yeah, I actually did fall asleep during that movie, but I figured you could check it out if you ever want to take a nap.
Clearly, I need to take a nap. Clearly.
Back on the American side of things, I was reading this. You did the Navy thing, right? Apparently, U.S. Navy 3D printed a concept submersible in 4 weeks, a month.
Whoa! How big was this boat?
30 feet.
What?
Like, it's not huge, but 30 feet. You can put some people in there. I know.
They 3D printed a 30-foot boat in 4 weeks. What, is it like cheap plastic, like ABS?
30 foot, 4.5 diameter.
Oh shit, that's not too... That's pretty big, dude. Jesus.
Like, I know, back in the high school days, we used to cram a lot of people in a tiny little car that was not 30 feet. So, I don't know how many people they could fit in this thing, but that's just crazy. Like, you wouldn't need to have a bunch of subs, like, go all the way across the water. Couldn't you just, like, have a big 3D printer on a big-ass boat somewhere in the middle of the sea and just print out subs?
Yeah, you know, if they're going to print it a 30-foot long... Well, how much? 4 feet wide did you say it was?
I think the thing said 4.5 feet in diameter.
So you printed out a 30-foot long, 4.5-foot, 5-foot wide submersible boat. You could quite easily make a single-man sub with 2 torpedoes, sling them on the underside of that, throw it off the back end of a carrier, and there's your submarine fleet. Quite literally. So within the space of a month, say you've got 3-4 machines doing this continuously, you have then got 4 submarines. Holy shit.
Yeah, this was apparently a proof of concept. It was just a proof. Just make so that they could do it. The next one they've already started on is actually going to be watertight, so they're taking it to their little water lab, their little wave thing to just make sure it doesn't leak, because that's a pretty important part of a sub, I would imagine, is keeping the water on the outside.
Yes, structural integrity and making sure the thing don't sink. Right, now, when it comes to, material used, is it like cheap ABS plastic? What do they use?
This is the U.S. military, man. We don't use anything cheap. Or at least we don't pay for it cheap.
So bubblegum and Band-Aids then?
Hey, mister, I used wood to plug holes up in the boat. Don't you talk about bubblegum tape with me.
Duct tape and bubblegum, mate. Trust me,
I heard
you'll
you
be
talking
amazed.
about the whole little wood plugs. What kind of boats are you guys using nowadays?
No, seriously, dude. Wood is... You might think it's a bit archaic and a bit fucking old and whatever have you, but trust me, it works. Wood expands when it gets wet and plugs the hole even tighter. Yeah? Yeah. You'll be surprised.
After you plug it, did you have to go, raise the sail?
Oh, mate, seriously. That's basically what happened, mate. Plugged the hole with a wooden wedge and flung up the sail and I went on the sails, mate.
Did you just remember to feed the captain's parrot?
No, mate, no. Captain's cat, because the cat ate the fucking parrot.
Fair enough. But yeah, apparently this is obviously 3D printing is going to save a lot of money for anybody that's using it. Like the standard way of doing this was going to cost them $600,000 to $800,000. They're saying the 3D printing it saved them 90% of the money.
Okay, carbon fiber I think will be able to handle some stresses, but is this like an inner shell, or is this the outer shell? Is this how deep can it go? What are the parameters of this floaty boat war canoe? We're
not allowed to discuss the specifics of what we can do with our military. You just have to find that out when we're liberating you.
That's right. Come to England, liberate us, please.
I mean, what kind of countries would be like, oh, our sub can go so and so miles deep. We can stay down there for a month. You don't do that. You just let somebody find out.
Too much time sat at the bottom of the ocean, sitting on your ass. Not enough time liberating. Hey, Jolly.
Exactly. We're not trying to stay down there. We're busy liberating, bringing freedom to the world.
Bringing freedom. Oh, yes. So the bacon justice.
Best part about this, though, like, Bamm Havoc, is the Navy actually teamed with this group, and the 3D printer, this industrial 3D printer, the one that they used is actually called a Big Area Additive Manufacturing. So it's BAAM.
Right, so what you're saying is the USN stole my name.
They tweaked it slightly. Notice I said BAAM, not BAMM.
Right, so I'm still going to sue them because it still says the same word. You can do that. If Donald Trump can sue anybody for anything, I can do the same thing, surely.
Well, how about you get in your wooden boat and you come over and you let them know what's up.
Mate, I will.
Like, we might have a couple of these subs out.
I might have...
Depending on how long it takes your boat to get here.
I might have to...
I hope you have some strong winds.
I might have to bring a few bacon trees with me, Jolly, Sustenance, sustenance.
Yeah, company. You just gotta...
No, not company, Joey, not company. Sustenance, difference.
I mean, you gotta pet them as you come over, like, the water and everything, man. Like, you gotta be nice to them. You're not just gonna kill them the minute you get into the boat, are you?
Jesus, Joey. Right, I'm stopping this right here, dude. I'm done. Guys, thank you very much for listening to the news this week. Up next is Draconusx with this Comic-Con rant.
Catch you guys later.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from Adventure Count, and our new game, Strayed, is just come out on the Android store. I'm here on the Bamsters podcast.
San Diego ComicCon is a great thing. San Diego is a great place to have it. But maybe it's finally time for it to go somewhere else. Now don't get me wrong, I love having it here in San Diego. It's practically in my backyard, and so it's very convenient for me. I also know that because of where the convention center is located, right next to downtown, right at the foot there, that it offers a lot of drinking and dining options as well as a bunch of hotels where folks can stay that are just walking distance to the convention. So, knowing all this, why am I pulling an old man and yelling, "Get off my lawn"? Way back when I started going to the con, it was never sold out. It was easy to get a badge, pick one up for the following year to return again. The rooms were rarely full, and you were able to walk in and out of the panel rooms without having to wait in long lines. Now, over 130,000 people come to Comic-Con in San Diego every year, and things have gotten progressively worse over the years. The lines are and have been out of control. The line for Hall H alone is pure madness. Now you're supposed to get in line the night before to get a wristband so that you can get in line the following day. Yep, you get in line and wait, missing out on whatever's going on that evening, so that you can get a wristband that allows you to get in the line the following day, supposedly before they let folks without wristbands go in, but it still doesn't actually even guarantee that you'll get in the room in time to see what you want to see. And I was even hearing complaints from folks that got wristbands, but saw other people without them being let in before them. Honestly, the folks managing Comic-Con kind of screwed up there years ago. Hall H only houses 6,500 people, and it's probably one of the biggest draws to the convention because of all the Hollywood and TV stars that show up there. What they should have done, prior to Petco being taken over by zombies, concerts, parties, and other things during the convention, is moved Hall H content over to Petco Park, the big baseball stadium that's there. It would have allowed them to sell additional tickets just for that area for folks who either couldn't get tickets to the convention or just didn't have an interest in going to the rest of the convention anyway. Now, I know you can complain about much of that stuff not having to do with comics, and you'd be right, which is why Comic-Con added a subtitle to their name years ago, and like it or not, that's not going to change. Some years back, it was retitled to San Diego ComicCon International, a celebration of the popular arts. You see, years ago, when Twilight came to the con, it brought with it two demographics in very large numbers that until then either really didn't show up at Comic-Con, or if they did, it was in vastly small numbers. Now, before you start jumping on me about that, realize I'm not saying this was a bad thing. Honestly, Twilight was thematically appropriate for the con, and even without it bringing out the teeny boppers and soccer moms in large droves, it still would have climbed to the popularity we see today, including those groups of folks, as it should. So why am I ranting here? The panel rooms themselves are always packed. Even for things that you wouldn't think would have a huge audience, you still wait in line just trying to get in. There are multiple reasons for this, but probably the most frustrating one is that people end up sitting through panels that they don't care about just so that they can be in the room for the one that happens afterward. This means that some of the people waiting in line outside of the room are missing out on a panel that's going on right at that moment because someone inside that room is just filling a seat waiting for the next panel to start. And I've been guilty of doing this too. Why? Because sometimes it's the only way you can see the panel you want to go to. The lines are long and constant, especially for rooms like Hall H or Ballroom 20. You might as well just get in line early in the day, wait for hours on end. Then when you finally get into the room, you should probably just stay there for most of the day, because if you leave, you're taking a big chance that you won't get back in again later, especially if the panel you want to go see is a popular one. Simply put, the convention center and all the surrounding ballrooms in the hotels surrounding the area is not and have not been big enough for this event in quite some time. San Diego keeps promising to expand the convention center, and Comic-Con keeps extending the deadline for the time frame that it will stay within the city, but yet the city still has not followed through on that expansion. A secondary problem with the crowd size that's come up in recent years is that many of the things going on outside the convention center itself do not require you to have a badge. Now, while that sounds like a great thing, in my experience, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it's great that they allow folks without badges to do and see some of these things, but what ends up happening is the line sizes for them balloon up to maddening lengths. Here are just a few things that went on this year, and how long you could expect to wait in line to see them. Blade Runner took over an entire parking lot, covered it with a tent, built it up inside to make it look like LA 2049, complete with a place where they were giving out like noodles and whiskey if you were over 21. The line to go in and see these things, 3+ hours for the non-VR experience, and 5+ hours if you wanted to do the whole thing with the VR experience. Westworld was only taking so many people per day from what I heard, and you had to get lined up because they were giving wristbands out for that at like 6 a.m. Once the wristbands were out, that was it. So guess how quickly those went and how early some folks had to get in line just to get them. The Netflix one that I went to on Saturday, I was told would be a 3-hour wait. It took over 4 hours, almost 4.5 to get in. Then once I did and I got to see the things inside, I asked about the VR experience as they were trying to usher me to the exit. And then I was asked, well, did I get a fast pass? Now I will say this, the guy that was working there that asked me that question was an awesome human. When I explained that I'd heard nothing of a fast pass, didn't even know where to get one, he kind of looked around real quick and then pulled one out of his pocket and handed it to me. I greatly appreciate that, and I thankfully didn't have to go through the whole bit with him about waiting for over 4 hours in line and not getting any information as to there even was a fast pass, let alone where or how to get one. And at this point, I still don't know. Now, if you think that's the worst, I suggest you sit for the next part. Seriously, just hearing this bit is going to make you tired. Okay, ready? I spoke to a friend about the Game of Thrones stuff that was going on, and they got in line around 6 a.m. on a Friday. Now, one might think that since it didn't even open until, I think it was around 9 a.m., that they'd certainly be one of the first people through, right? I mean, they got there 3 hours before it opened. Nope. Okay, well, they couldn't have waited there more than an hour, right? Nope. Well, certainly, they must have gotten in by lunchtime. Wrong again. They didn't get through and done with the experience until just after 4 p.m. Doing the math, that's 10 frickin' hours. Well, it's their fault for waiting in line that long. I mean, no one forced them to, right? Okay, sure, that's true. Though at a certain point of waiting in line, you kind of start to feel vested, and it feels like you lose more if you leave the line than if you stay for full time. Honestly, though, I mean, the real thing is they never should have had to wait that long. The folks planning these events outside the convention, as well as inside, need to have a better understanding of the massive attention that it draws, and plan to keep people moving through these things, so that even if they do draw an insane line, hopefully they can still handle it better. Larger venues could certainly help with some of these issues by allowing more folks to get through the same time, but that could also be problematic, just like if they ever expand the convention center. You see, a larger convention center just means they'll sell more tickets, which means more people and even longer lines. So what are some of these core problems and how could maybe they be fixed? First, the Hollywood stuff needs to be moved out to a separate and larger venue where they can sell separate badges just for the folks that want to see that stuff. And it could potentially reduce the foot traffic in the convention center itself, hopefully unclog some of those other panel rooms for regular attendees. I know one of the biggest arguments against this would be from Hollywood, fearing the trailers that they show would leak online easier and they couldn't police a larger venue like Petco Park. Guess what? They leak anyway. Instead of keeping it a Comic-Con exclusive, say that it debuts there, and after the panel release it online yourself. No one brings test footage to the con anymore. That used to be one of the really great things about those panels, was you got to see movie footage that hadn't gone all the way through the post-production. And maybe it had only gone through a few steps, and they would show you how it changed from just filming an actor on a green screen with nothing there but maybe a dot to look at, to as they started to add different special effects afterwards. Now, when they show up, they just bring finished trailers. So what's the point in keeping it exclusive for several weeks or months before you finally do actually release it to the rest of the world? Just make Comic-Con weekend the weekend you release the trailer on the web for the rest of the world. Then you don't have to worry about whether or not somebody records it. Once they do expand the convention center, don't just check with the fire marshal and hike up the number of badges you sell to max capacity. Increase the room sizes for the panels, and only increase the attendance by a small or moderate bit at first to make sure that things are under control. And once you have things under control, you can start to increase it a little bit more, just so that you don't get to this point where these lines are this maddening debacle that they are now. Comic-Con folks, the folks running it, please, I'm begging you, stream these panels online. I don't just mean Hall H or Ballroom 20, all of them, or at least as many as possible. I know there's cameras in every room. Even if you don't do it live, have them upload overnight, allow folks to watch the next day. Many of the larger conventions like E3 freely stream this stuff live for folks who couldn't attend. I doubt you'll lose badge sales, as those conventions don't seem to have lost any sales from that. And even if you did see a dip in sales, well, then you can charge a nominal fee for access, and you've just opened up another revenue stream for millions of people around the world. I've seen some of these things make it online in the past, but not all. And at the moment, I honestly can't remember what the source was, if it was from the SDCCI folks or not. If it is, I would just say, let's do a better job of putting it out there and making it really easy for folks to find. Keep the attendance for the offsite stuff to badge holders, and make it a one-time through event. The badges have the little RFIDs in them now. You can scan them as you go through, and they know if you've been through before. Now, I say that as someone who would have missed out on the stuff on Saturday because I didn't have a Saturday badge. Get rid of the con-exclusive merchandise. While I know some folks that wait in line and get an awesome toy or statue for themselves, too many of them are buying it for the sole purpose of dramatically upping the price and reselling them online. So it's not really a con exclusive anymore. And I've seen some of these things go for 4 and 5 times the original price, or even quite a bit more. Just like the movie trailers, debut the toy or the statue at con, but plan to have additional stock for high demand, or even take pre-sales. So those are just some of my thoughts for now. I could probably ramble on longer, but I don't want to, keep you here listening to me rant and rave. Comic-Con is probably the only place where you go to wait in line to get a ticket, that allows you to wait in line to get a wristband, that will then allow you to wait in line for what you want to see, while they still let someone else ahead of you that didn't jump through all those hoops. Listen, I know the ideas I have are not foolproof, and there may be better ones out there. I just hope to see things improve in the future for everyone attending. San Diego ComicCon. It's a love-hate thing, but I'll probably keep doing this to myself year after year.
Hey, you're listening to the Bamsters Rated R podcast. This is Chris from Adventure Cow. Our new game, Strayed, has just come out on the Android store.
Hello guys, and welcome to this part of our little show. Today we've got something quite special for you guys today. We're going to be talking to a guy called Chris from Adventure Cow. A bit strange, but without further ado, let me introduce Draconusx. Drac, say hi.
Hey folks, I'm back. I'm recovering from Comic-Con, but I'm here.
Right, guys. That's Drac. He went to Comic-Con. He's got a bit of a rant about it. You guys will have heard or will have heard about it. We've got a guy called Chris from Adventure Cow. Chris, Say hi.
Hi. How's it going?
Quite well. It's a miserable day in the UK. Overcast, raining, cold. The usual. What's it like over in the United States of America, lad?
Well, at least in New York, it's 70, 80, sunny. Not too bad. I'm sitting inside doing a podcast, so I'm just looking out my window, though.
I'm jealous, bro. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. Yeah. Typical British weather. Miserable and wet.
I guess I'll start off then with basically, why don't you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself, and about the game straight.
Sure. So I'm Chris. I started this little thing called Adventure Cow. It's basically me and some freelancers. We make interactive stories. So are you guys familiar with Choose Your Own Adventure books, game books, anything like that?
Oh, yeah, I loved Zork as a kid, was one I used to do a lot.
Yeah, so what we did was a lot along those lines. We started with our first book was kind of a gamebook RPG. It was called Destiny Quest. So we did a digital version of the original print gamebook called Destiny Quest. If you're familiar with fighting fantasy, I know that was more of a UK thing than a US thing. It's a little bit like that. Have either of you tried that out at all?
No.
Okay,
no, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, fighting fantasy and its ilk are basically so they're sort of in between choose your own adventure books and like Dungeons and Dragons. So the idea is like you'll be making choices throughout the game, but sometimes there'll be a situation where you like run into a combat and you have to fight this troll, and all that combat is decided through dice. There's like inventory items that you can carry, so you might go into the same page and you might fight the same troll, but it'll be with a different set of weapons, and so you'll have different numbers, and so in that way it's very sort of old school RPG-ish. So Destiny Quest was a book that this guy in the UK, Michael Ward, put out, and it was sort of like these choose your own adventure books, but it was somewhere in the realm of, I want to say, 500, 600 pages. It was like a pound. It's like an inch and a half thick, and so I thought it would be cool to say, you know, hey, let's make this digital. So we made a digital version of that, and that came out a while ago, like 3 or so years at this point. And Strayed is actually our newest project. It's more of a traditional choose your own adventure, just a scary, or not scary, but sort of thriller, you're in the woods and you have to get home type thing.
Well, I gotta ask, because when I saw this, it was like something from the recesses of my memory just clicked, because I don't think I've really seen Choose Your Own Adventure books since I was a kid. I don't know what happened to those, but do you actually see a lot of that around, or what was the inspiration to do something like this?
So, way back when, like ancient history, I think this must have been, I don't know, 2010 or something. I'd been working at a software company. I'm a software developer, and I think at that point I had just left my job and was looking for something new to do, because I just wanted to change up things and I wanted to maybe work on a company. And I had all these ideas, like I think shopping, like interactive shopping aids. I don't even remember, but the thing is, like, I also had some side projects, and one of those side projects was actually a choose your own adventure by email. And so I had, my friends would get this email in their inbox that was like one page of an interactive story, and then they would just click on a link in that email, and then the next day or the next week they would get the next page of the story. And it was just going to be a fun project for a while, but then I discovered Destiny Quest, and I found out, oh, actually, you know, there are people working on these things, and I thought, you know, if I'm going to work on something like this, I might as well start with a book that someone's already written, because it's already hard enough to make a game. So if I can at least save myself the trouble of like, well, someone's designed the game, you just have to make it digital and put it on a computer, that would be a good start. That's kind of where this all started. That's all sort of the ancient history of how I kind of got into interactive storytelling. I've always been a gamer, and I always had this, well, not always, but I've had this kind of notion that, like, it's always very difficult to make games. like especially now, like there are engines to make these things easier, but most people don't assume that like it's possible to make a game if you're not a programmer. And game books and interactive texts sort of, to me, represent this idea that you can sort of get around that. And if you have a game idea that you want to present, or you have something that you want to make interactive, but you don't necessarily have the art expertise or the programming background, and you just want to tell a good story, that maybe you can do that in the same way that people who made Choose Your Own Adventures did. And so that's been kind of the underlying idea, that maybe there's this way for people to make great interactive experiences without having to, huge production budgets and huge time investments. And that's sort of where this all came from.
That
Well,
makes
that's one
total
of the-
sense. Oh, here we go. God damn it, Drac. Your mother. Gee, this is always the case. Because we are in completely different parts of the planet, we can't look at each other and say, right, okay, he's finished talking, he's about to ask a question, I'll shut up. Because it's always this over chat. Sorry, Drac, you first, mate. I'll ask the next question.
Well, that was one of the things that I loved about this. Is I've got an 8-year-old, and she just started 4th grade, and of course she's been reading for a little while now. But when I went through this last night, it kind of reminded me of some of those old Choose Your Own Adventure stuff that I saw as a kid, but I don't see now. And so I'm kind of eager to have her try this out and see what she thinks, because it's a more interactive reading experience than the typical passive one. So I'm almost thinking like that this may actually engage her more and get her more interested. Is there an age range that you're targeting for things like this?
Well, that's a short question with a long and interesting answer. So we're experimenting with a new project now that's more of a kid's story. It's still in testing, but we're working on that. And I guess the question behind that is like, why did you jump from Dungeons and Dragons style RPG to interactive mystery thriller story with no statistics in it to now children's story? And the jump from the first to the second is its own thing, but in going from working on Strayed to considering maybe we're going to make a kid's story, part of what happened is actually Strayed was originally intended for adults. There's no visual gruesome violence, obviously, because it's all text, but the writing was targeted for an adult audience, and sort of the themes and the general ideas were originally planned to be like for adults. And when we would demo this game at like just small expos in New York, what we would find is adults were interested, but there would be kids who would just come up, pick up the phone, and start reading. And after a while of seeing this, we thought, well, maybe this is something we should look into. And so we've been exploring that idea as well. So to answer the first question, Strayed is not really meant for kids. There's not too much in it that would be objectionable. There's not complicated language. There is some drug use at some point. It's not targeted at kids, but it's not really blatantly offensive to kids either. The real answer is that you have to read it and judge for yourself. And also, we are exploring the idea of, hey, maybe we should make something that is specifically for kids, because they seem really into this stuff. Especially like with early readers who are just getting started on reading, what a lot of parents have told me is just, I don't care exactly what my kids read, as long as it's not blatantly terrible. I just want them to read. And so you find that a lot with, like, if you've seen kids reading visual novels nowadays, there's a lot of sort of in-between material where it's like they'll read a manga or something, and there are definitely words and vocabulary in it, but it's also a mix of that and pictures. And so one other way that might get people who aren't used to reading yet into reading is to have this interactive.
That's one of the things that I loved about it, and I had forgotten about Choose Your Own Adventure books because I haven't seen them in so long. So that got me kind of excited, because I know that at times she wants to read, and other times it's kind of difficult to get her to sit down and do that because she wants to do other things. But she also, when she gets a chance, loves to play with our phones and play games and stuff on there. So if I can combine those two things, and she'll sit there and read an interactive story like that because it's something she can participate in, I don't know. I just thought that'd be pretty cool. So
this is definitely an experiment that seems really promising, and I'd love to see if this is something that'll get more kids into reading.
All right, Bam, why don't you get your question in there?
Yeah, I can talk. Yeah, fucking finally. Jeez. Drac, you hogged the poor man. Right, Jason? Good lord. Sorry. Jason's really one. Chris, my good man, please. You have mentioned now twice you are in the great city of New York.
Yes, that's right.
Right. Gonna ask you now, my good man. Have you ever had the chance to have a burgerito?
A burgerito.
Yes.
I think you can tell by my voice how my brain is cognitively processing that idea.
Right. Burgerito. 3 stores in New York. Bethpage, Brooklyn, and Park somewhere, right? I went to the one in Brooklyn. What an experience. It is delicious. It's a burger wrapped in a burrito, wrapped in deliciousness, and you eat it, and you got to have more, basically, mate. I had like 5 in one day. Burgeritos are great.
I'm really surprised to say I've never even heard of burgerito.
Dude, whereabouts are you, roughly? I don't know exactly postcode, zip code. Whereabouts roughly?
Just east of Central Park in Manhattan. So I've had a what do they call it? A ramen burger. I just recently had a cronut. I've heard of a taco pizza, but that's over across the river in New Jersey, and I haven't gotten to try that yet. But I've never heard of a burgerito.
Right. My man, please, Google that shit. Get yourself down to one of those burgerito stores and try one of them deliciousness, mate. Seriously, it's a burger in a burrito. What could go wrong? Nothing. It is beautiful. You need to try some of that, dude. Seriously, it is mind-altering.
I'm just waiting for the cut, and it's like, this podcast is sponsored by Burgerito.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. I'm just wanting to know if you had the same ability and the same experience I have, because Burgerito, mate, is where it's at. Burgerito is where it's at.
Noted.
Please note, Chris is now Googling where the nearest Burgerito is.
This is the weirdest... I'm actually experiencing deja vu, and that doesn't make any sense because I don't believe I've ever been interviewed on a podcast about a choose your own adventure book I just made where someone mentioned to me that I should go check out Burgerito. Like, why would I have had that experience in the past? It doesn't make any sense, but I'm kind of feeling a little deja vu for some reason.
Oh, don't worry. You get that feeling about all the people. What I'm trying to say, mate, is Burgerito, good place. You need to go try that shit out. It's great. It's great. Love it.
Be careful. Bam is worming his way into your brain.
Well, that was one of my questions. My next question, Drac, shush. I'm asking questions now. You run away. I'm going to beat you back. Get away. Well, my Chris. Right. Chris, there is... I did some research on Adventure Cow. And from what I can see, there are 3 of you. 3 main people. Yourself, Jeremy, and Yulia?
This is where it gets real complicated. That webpage is out of date. So, just to tell the history on those 2 people really quickly, Jeremy is an old friend of mine. He hasn't really worked on Adventure Cow in a while, but his spirit lives on in the sense that all the cows are really his doing. Yulia is someone I worked with for quite a bit when we were making Destiny Quest Infinite. She was really helpful with that. She got really busy. She's freelance, so we still managed to keep in touch, but we haven't really collaborated as much recently. At the moment, I think Anna you've met, so she helps a lot with the marketing, and we also work with another person, Cindy, and she has been really helpful with just project management and sort of making sure that for someone who's doing this as like a side gig, that I'm still able to actually produce things to something resembling a deadline.
Fair enough. I must admit then, my research has just gone out the bloody window. Thank you very much, Chris. Lovely. Great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're very welcome. I mean, I think this is sort of the symptom of like when you have something that's like a personal project. It's like there's always this tendency to sort of have the shed in the backyard just full of things that you half did and never finished. And I think for me, it's like you just keep your eye on what's the ball, and in this case, that's just making more interactive stories. And unfortunately, that means that other things like the about page of my website are, they fall behind. They celebrate people I've worked with, but they don't celebrate the current people I've worked with. I did at least update the website so it doesn't show a big security warning because the certificate's out of date. So, I got that out of the way. Got that somewhere. But there's always a sense that if you're just working on something by yourself, you're going to have to make trade-offs and just do whatever it takes to get a game going, get something out the door that other people can play.
Well, I've got to ask, the name Adventure Cow.
Oh, the name Adventure Cow is actually it was a mistake. So the original it was not even a good mistake either. It was just pure dumbness on my part, I guess. Dumbity or whatever you want to call it. So I mentioned a while back, I don't know if it'll get picked up, but that there was this time when I had a project, like when we were just starting Adventure Cow. I had this project where I would just email my friends like every week with a new page of like this choose your own adventure story I had written. They would get it in their inbox and then they would click on a link and go to the next page. We had this thing going on like every week, and so it was choice a week. And I figured, well, we need a name for this thing, and it is a choose your own adventure, so we're going to start the name with adventure, right? And then it's choice a week, COW. So it was Adventure Cow. And you see the mistake.
I think it lends to maybe like a good logo or something, with this cow, and he's wearing, adventuring equipment and carrying a sword and got some kind of helmet with bull horns or whatever, like a little comedic thing.
Yeah, we've got
Indiana
that logo
Jones,
actually.
right there. Indiana Jones cow. Honestly, that's what you need to do. Indiana Jones cow, right there. The
We've got
ultimate
that somewhere.
Do it.
No, we've got it. Actually, I don't know if it's on the Facebook page. We use a different cow for like every page, I think. So one of those, and this is kind of an Easter egg hunt at this point, but one of those, it's the Facebook page has got the Indiana Jones cow.
Nice.
Is that what it is? I didn't think that was Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah, he's got a little whip and everything. And if you go to well, I mean, it's sort of like you go to Adventure Cow on Facebook and you see a cow, so you're like, okay, it's Adventure Cow. You go to Twitter on Adventure Cow and you see a cow, so you're like, oh, it's a cow. You don't notice that in between, like running from the Facebook page to the Twitter page, that the Adventure Cow has completely changed his outfit, and so we just did that on just every page.
You, sir, are now going to go hunt. I did not notice. I didn't notice it was a Indiana Jones cow. Honestly, I didn't notice. Well done. Well done.
Well, wait. If it's an Indiana Jones cow, what is the whip made of?
Ooh.
Ooh,
that's a good question. Ooh.
I don't know if there are any answers to that question. I want to go on the record as saying. I don't know. I'm sure you can have vegan whips these days. I'm sure that's a thing.
Yeah. Vegan whips. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, made out of tofu soybean.
Or made out of pigskin.
Ew, it's like those Chick-fil-A ads. Yeah, so Choice a Week was actually, like, Adventure Cow was a mistake, because Choice a Week is CAW, it's not COW. I probably just should have shoved that in the living room couch of history and just let it stay there, but, I like to celebrate some of my mistakes.
Okay, so if the Adventure Cow on Facebook is Indiana Jones, what the hell's the Twitter one? Don't say Gandalf.
I believe it's a generic. No, it might be.
I'm looking at it. It looks like a wizard.
It is a wizard. It may be like from the original Final Fantasy wizard. I'd really have to ask Jeremy about that. I think it might have been generic wizard. It might have been a specific wizard.
It does have kind of that vibe for the what was it, the Dark Wizard or something like that from Final Fantasy that was wearing like the blue outfit with the yellow hat.
Yeah, was it like Black Mage or something?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, so it might be that. I'm not positive though.
Okay, so let me try and steer things back on course again. So the story, at least the introduction for it, is that you're kind of lost in the woods and there's something out there. Were you the writer for this, and what was kind of the inspiration for the story?
I didn't write straight. We actually had a great writer come in. We talked to a lot of people and just found one. During this process, Gavin, the writer, and Lee, the game designer I work with, and Tori as well. Just a bunch of names. I don't know how much context I can fill in here, but basically the point is, like, all of us were just working on a story and trying to understand, what ideas what ideas are there? What do we want to work with? What are our options? And so we just spent a while just cranking out drafts, making sort of mini stories, doing experiments, trying out new ideas, making a story where you have to get through these woods, and you find this animal, and you're not quite sure what it is. And so there's a sense of both, do I want to protect this animal, and also, is this animal dangerous? Is it safe? And I really like that idea, and we spent most of the story playing with the different interactions between characters. And it was all just, I don't want to use the word organic, it was more just a process of, let's just try a bunch of things and see what stories are really compelling, what's really going to click.
Well, I gotta say, because of everything else I've had going on lately, I didn't get a lot of time to really sit down with it, and so I installed it last night to check it out. Thought I'd check it out really quickly, and then at least I'd know a little bit about it for the interview today. And props to your writer, man. It sucked me in, and where I started out kind of quickly skimming at the beginning, then I started paying more attention, reading through, and thinking about the options as I was going. But the really cool thing for me when the experience of the initial playthrough was over, which I got crushed, but when that initial experience was over, I kind of walked away with this feeling. I don't know if you ever used to watch the X-Files, but it felt like the catalyst for an episode of the X-Files. Like I was basically a part of the beginning that happens before they call in Mulder and Scully. And so then they would have been called in to investigate my crushed body afterwards. It kind of had almost like that sci-fi thriller suspense kind of vibe that some of the X-Files episodes had.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think part of what we were going for with the story was both to get that really deep experience, but also just to be really easy to jump into. So I'm glad you got into it.
Can I ask a question, Jeff? Am I allowed? You're not going to interrupt me? Can I ask? Yes?
I think you've asked about 3. Is it my turn?
Yeah! Right, Chris, dude. I'm sure you've seen that Netflix are bringing out a choose your own adventure type movie deal. Are you going to be doing something similar to that in the future? Is this one of your plans? Because that
are we going to be making a movie?
Well, no. Netflix are bringing out a choose your own adventure, a movie story type effort. If you've been doing some newsy type things that I've been looking into, my thoughts were choose your own adventure story via your media, and you're going to be progressing to that sort of state where you choose your own adventure and then the story plays out, similar to what Netflix are doing. That was at least my initial thought with Adventure Car.
I think in general, I'm trying to understand what you're describing here. It's sort of like maybe you make choices and then there's a longer period of storytelling between those choices?
Well, I don't think I've probably asked the question very well, to be honest. I just know it's a thing on Netflix that they're doing a Puss in Boots thing, where you basically Puss in Boots, you walk into their own story, whatever have you, and then that's the story. But they're doing it with video interactiveness, rather than book interactiveness and pictures. My thoughts were, are you going to be doing the same thing?
So I think we are probably, I have no immediate plans to be getting into sort of the movie business. I know way back when, I think there was this idea of the interactive movie, and I want to say this was actually probably like 80s or 90s, and they would just have pre-recorded clips, and the audience would have like these big remotes with like 3 different colored buttons, and at certain points you'd push the button, and then they'd do a vote, and they'd tally it up, and they'd show you a different clip depending on where, what everyone had picked. I don't think we're going to get into that for a number of reasons. I mean, the main thing is really just accessibility. Gavin's not a writer, or sorry, he's a writer, but he's not like a programmer. He doesn't spend his time coding, and he's not a film producer. I'm not a film producer. And the nice thing about having the choose your own adventure style of, it's mostly text, is just the accessibility of that to someone who just has an interesting story to tell. So to go back to the story made a long time ago, Destiny Quest Infinite. Like, Mike Ward just wrote that himself. It's hundreds of pages, but lots of items and RPG-ish things, but he just created that basically on his own. And Strayed was the product of like just, a handful of people. And I really like the idea that we can continue to produce sort of really interactive, compelling stories, and we don't have to get out a camera or create an entire production studio to make them. And it's really just making that sort of interesting creativity accessible to as many people and as small groups as we can. So I think, it's not out of the question that we would ever do sort of a Netflix-style interactive movie thing. But it's definitely not on the table for us right now. It's like, I don't have the resources to produce that kind of thing. And moreover, it sort of runs counter to the idea that, here's an individual person who just wants to tell a cool story and they want to make it interactive. Let's give them a way to do that.
Well, and on that note, actually, then about the logic of how this all progresses as you go through the story, is it simply that, you're on page 1, you get 3 options, and as you proceed through the options, it's kind of linear? Or is it that things that you choose early in the story can actually affect the options that you have later in the story? How does the logic work behind the scenes?
Yeah, so there's a bit of the latter, actually. So on the surface, you have pages, and those pages are linked to other pages. Sort of classic HTML, hyperlinks, all of that. So if I start on page 1 and I make a choice, then I'll go to page 2 or page 5 or page 17 or whatever. But underneath that, there's also, you can see what decisions have been made in the past, and those decisions might affect something internally. Like, even if you're still going to the same page, that page might remember whether you were nice to someone before or rude to someone, whether you approached something or you ran away from it. And those decisions play into what happens on later pages. So even though it looks like just a traditional choose your own adventure in the sense that you just pick something and you flip to what appears to be a different page, that page is also a little bit affected by everything you did before it.
I can only imagine that, like, the storyboarding for this or the planning, it must have looked like a spider web.
The tricky part with making an interactive story is that branching is expensive. So what I mean is, let's say every time you're at a decision point, you make 3 decisions. You start out with 1 page, and then when you make the first 3 decisions, you have 3 more pages after that. And if each of those go to new decisions, you've got 9 pages after that, 27. And so there has to be a way to put limits on all of this, because eventually you're just writing hundreds of pages just to have a 6-page length story, which is what most choose your own adventures would actually do. Any one story you read was really, really short. So there are a lot of ways to contain this, and one of the things we did was actually fit Strayed into sort of, I guess, for lack of a better word off the top of my head, I'm going to call them episodes, where something would happen and that event individually has a lot of choices you can make in it. And then those choices all lead you to different parts, but then at the end, it's like that little capsule, that event, that encounter you had is done, and then you're on to another set of encounters. Something new might happen there, and that'll be, in some sense, its own contained story. And that's one way of placing some kind of limit on interactivity while still allowing you to really feel like you're having an immersive experience.
So Chris, you were telling me earlier on that I could write my own story. How would I go about doing that, coming to your website?
So right now, we have a editor on AdventureCow. The editor's goal is just to be able to write stories. And the plan was to have something sort of like Google Drive, where you would just write and then you would say, oh, here's a choice, and then that would take you to another page. That editor is still in alpha. It works on Google Chrome, and we're just testing it out. What we did for Strayed is actually we have a really, really, really simple language that we wrote. We filled out this text file. And this text file is mostly just text from the story, but it's also got these little tags for links that tell you, oh, I want to go to this page. And so if you write in that language, you can take that and you can just instantly turn that into an interactive site, and you can instantly turn that now into an Android app and eventually an iOS app that's coming next. So that stuff is still in beta, in alpha, and we're testing it out. It's one of those things where I'm really happy to just support anyone who wants to publish this stuff themselves. So I think at this point the answer would be just shoot me an email.
Okay. Would it be an email to a specific address? Do I have this address? Because basically what I'm trying to get at, mate, is that people that listen to this show want to then tell a cool story. So how would they go about doing that? And, so what email is it do they need to send it to? Because now you're going to get inundated with a million freaking emails. You know?
Yeah.
Do you have an email to filter out?
Yeah, so I think you could send it to writers@adventurecow.com, or you could send it to chris@adventurecow.com. That's me. At the moment, I try to work one-on-one with writers, just support them and partner with them. Like Strayed was collaboration with Gavin. Destiny Quest was all from Mike Ward. I don't want to be at this point like, here are the tools, have them, good luck, and just throw you out there, because it's very early on and there's a lot in this process that is just still stuff that has to be worked out. So it's very much like, send me an email, chris@adventurecow.com. I'll talk to you. If you're really serious about writing something, then we can definitely help get that out there and get that into the world. And I want to really do it at a personal level right now, because this is still something we're figuring out, and I want to really support people as they're making it.
Happy days.
What's the release date for Strayed?
So Strayed's out now. The Android app, at least, is out now. That came out, I want to say it's almost been a month at this point. But yeah, it's just very recently released, June something. And there is an iOS app coming. That is going to be a while. Sometime this year, I would give it a couple of months.
And you mentioned that folks would be able to go from their computer through Chrome and to work on this. Are there any plans to make this accessible from a regular computer as opposed to a mobile device, or is it already accessible that way, or no?
Strayed is technically accessible by a computer. I think we need to set up like where we're going to actually put this. Like, does it belong on Steam or Itch or whatever? But that stuff is there. Like the iOS stuff is like half done. I need to just finish coding it. But the web stuff is all there. I think it's just a matter of A, gauging if there's interest, and B, figuring out where to put it. So I think that's just something we got to figure out.
And what's the cost for someone who wants to go and pick this up?
Strayed's on Android right now. It's $199.
All right, Bam, are you ready for the beer and bacon bits?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. That, my good sir, is a question for G. And I know where he is. He's hiding in the bloody corner. No, Bam! Don't ask me the code, Bam! He's here, he will ask the question. It's his contract. And if he doesn't ask the question, Drac, because you signed the same contract under subtext 3, article B, reference, book of reference fucking 2, you're going to have to ask it, mate. Anyway, doesn't matter. We're not there yet.
I don't know. I think I have to talk with my agent. I don't remember signing that.
Read the fine print, man. Read the fine print. Right, Chris, dude.
Yeah.
What stories have you got planned after Strayed? Because from what I can see, Strayed is quite a dark horror type book type thing. I'll admit now, I have not played it. I have not played it. I have seen trailers for it, and there's two things I don't do: canned asparagus and horror books. Because that shit scares me, bro. I just can't do it. I just cannot do it. Are there any other books coming up? Because I'm looking through the list here, and there is one that I've found that I think might be quite funny. Adventures in Space: The Life and Times of a Bored Mechanic in Space.
Right. So if you've so you found that on our website, by the way? Yeah. So actually, the cool thing about AdventureCow.com right now is it's actually not just a place for our stories, but a place for just anyone to post their stories. So if you go to AdventureCow.com, you'll actually see a bunch of stories that people have posted there as links, and usually those will just be free stories that someone came up with. So it's just cool to check that out. As far as what we've got on the queue, so Strayed, we still have to finish the iOS version, aka I have to go back to my computer and code monkey it. After Strayed, so we're actually working on a children's story. I think just tell the story. Basically, we had been testing out Strayed at a bunch of game expos. So we would just have the game on a phone and just let people try it. And Strayed, written for an adult audience, but all the time these like really young kids would come and try it out, and that got us thinking, maybe what we should be doing is seeing maybe there's a market for something for kids. So that was where we got into maybe the next thing we should try experimenting with is making a children's story. So we're still testing that out. That's really early. We've had a few parents and kids come in and just try it out. They've liked what they've seen, and we're just going to do some experiments with that. I don't know if we're going to do another adult story yet or what it's going to be about, but there might be something coming there too.
Yeah, that ultimately was my question, because I realized you had a kiddie project going, and you're currently working on that. My thoughts were, have you got anything else in the future after this children's adventure, children's humor, children's, but that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, that was if you got anything after that, have you been, because I'm saying, you've got so many stories on your website, you could very easily take one of these and turn it into something similar to Strayed.
Yeah, and I think that's I can think of some projects that we might work on. It's difficult to do because this is a side project for me, so it's like I have to really just only be working on one story at a time in order to get anything. But there are definitely some stories on the website, other stories that I've just got sitting on my hard drive or in my email box that I'm just would really love to get out there, to publish, to share with more people so they can try them out. I don't know if it would necessarily be thriller horror. It might be something more humorous, but that's something I'd like to do, but no specific plans yet.
Bam, I don't know why you're not excited about the children's story. I mean, if you can't handle a little bit of thriller, sci-fi stuff.
Dude,
Yeah.
I can't even watch X-Files. That's how bad I am.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, dude, seriously, I can't even watch X-Files. I cannot watch X-Files. I watched one of them where it was like, I want to say it reminded me of a hyena pack, where the mother was the alpha and I'm like, never again. Never again. Because they found a kid buried under a base plate at a baseball field. Never again. I can't do that. Cannot do that.
Now I want to get you on film playing something like Friday the 13th.
No. Believe it or not, I could do Friday the 13th, because Friday the 13th is stupid. It's idiotic. It's like, well, why don't you just get the biggest gun you can see and blow his face off? Oh wait, Kevin Bacon did that. But Friday the 13th. Not that. What's that do with the sharp fingers with the knives again? Nightmare on Elm Street. Here we go. Nightmare on Elm Street. I can do. It's just I think it's because X-Files. It's just dark, relatively dark. So no, not gonna touch that. No.
So you can handle things like Alien and Predator, but not if it seems realistic.
Aliens and Predator, mate. The Aliens films laughed my ass off the whole way through. The Predator films with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny Glover, brilliant movies. Just can't do X-Files. Don't know why. Just cannot do X-Files.
Get to the chopper. Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, okay. I take it Chris does X-Files. Chris, you do X-Files?
No, that's really more of Gavin, our writer's influence. I have actually, I have to make a confession, I've never watched X-Files.
My man right there. There we go. My man never watched X-Files. Don't sully your mind with X-Files, man. Don't sully your mind. What is your inspiration for writing, if you don't mind me asking that, Chris?
So I would say I'm a terrible writer, and my role is really to enable other people to share their writing, actually. Like, I think if I really sat down and worked hard, gave it like a year or two, maybe I could produce a workable, like, interactive story. But to me, it's like, there are all these people who create really great stories, and it's just, if I can just sit at my computer and make an app and bring all of these things to life, that seems like really good use of my time.
It is, Chris. It is. Getting people into reading and making reading an enjoyable experience for everyone and every person and everything, whatever have you, isn't a wasted goal. It is a very good thing to be striving for. All writers say they're terrible at writing. They all do. Well, I'm gonna let you be a bit humble there, but you're full of shit. You're full of shit.
I mean, I'm not making this up, right? Like, I don't write our stories, and I think, part of that is just efficiency. Like, I can't, I can't create the website, make all the tools, get all the things in the App Store and all of that. But it's also part of just, that's also not the thing I'm most fascinated by. I'm more of a game mechanic person where I think about, like, what is it that makes an interesting choice? How is it that you make this experience interesting? And, I team up with people who are much better at creating words and creating atmosphere. And, that team, together you produce a really awesome work. That's how I...
Fair enough. Again, mate, getting people into reading and allowing other people to tell their stories is a good goal. I'm quite chuffed with that, mate. Quite chuffed with that.
Yeah, and there's definitely, like, things that have influenced me as far as, like, the game design side of it goes. Like, there's definitely, and I'm trying to really think of a lot of these things, but it can be difficult on the spot. There's a lot of examples, especially, like, now with indie games, where you see a lot of game makers, and they work on how do we tell a story in a game? How do you give people choices? Sort of the kind of the Mass Effect thing, or like the Walking Dead thing. Like, how do you tell a story in this interactive format, and you manage to do it without, like, repeating yourself or making it seem cliche? And there's a lot of challenges to that, and I like playing games that wrestle with those questions of how do you tell a story in an environment that's not always really used for telling stories that are more elaborate than, well, here's this dude blow his head off with this shotgun.
So you're more into the story, actually telling a story, making us learn a bit more about ourselves. Like the reader learning more about, the reader's person, that sort of thing. And allowing people to sort of tackle the tough choices, How would they go about dealing with that situation?
So there's an interesting... are either of you familiar with a game called Planescape Torment?
Sadly, no.
I think I heard a yes and a no there.
That was me, Drac. He's the king.
So it's a computer RPG from decades ago, but is it decades? Anyways, it still has quite a following, and I think part of the reason it does is because of this emphasis it had on choice. Like, as an RPG, I believe Planescape followed just Dungeons and Dragons rules. I want to say 2nd edition, and so in that sense, like, the combat is just, here are dice, here are numbers. But the interesting thing about Planescape Torment was not the numbers or the combat, it was the choices you had to make. And there were just a lot of choices in dialogue that they were not only just like, are you a good person or are you an evil person? But it was more, what do you care about? And one of the things it highlighted is that choices aren't always just, do good or do bad. Sometimes choices are just an expression of your identity. Are you more of a cunning person? Are you more of a straightforward, let's just get to the point person? Would you prefer to, are you going to lie to someone if you think it protects them? Once you start to think about all the different choices that human beings can make, it gives you a lot of dimension in games and a lot of ways to interact with stories that aren't going to just be on, like, a linear spectrum. And I really like that about certain, like, computer games that do that, like Planescape. And so I think when I think about game design, those are the kinds of things that I'm sort of aspiring to. Giving people choices that are really going to make them think, what am I doing? And not necessarily be a choice where it's just like, oh, I want to maximize this number in the future, therefore I have to pick this option.
Fair enough. Have you banged heads with the writers when it comes to choice making?
Yeah, not really. And the way I would explain that is when I'm working with, like, writers, game designers to create something, I don't really think about it as, like, I'm going to have this one point of view and they're going to have this one point of view because they want to tell a story and I want it to be more interactive and we're just going to fight it out. I think in the end, we have a similar goal. We want to have a compelling experience. I want someone to go in to this story and really feel like they were drawn into it and they were really invested. And when they had to make this one choice, it was just a moment that they really remember. And in the end, I think we all want something along those lines. We want interesting narrative. We want interesting choices. In the end, it's not so much us struggling with each other as all of us together struggling with the story and trying to understand how do we make this work? Because, you know, it's not simple to make an interesting interactive story. To make those choices interesting, like, is a challenging task, because there's always this temptation to just be like, oh, you know, like, here's the good choice, here's the evil choice, or, you know, here's the noble sounding choice, and here's the, you know, you're the jerk with the heart of gold choice or whatever. And it's tough to get out of categories and try and make these things work. And I think it's something that we all sort of work on together. And it's like a collaborative, well, here's the issue, we all agree on it, now let's figure out how to solve it.
Well, and I would think with a team, too, it gives you a variety of perspectives on how they might approach the issue, too. So it gives you different ideas for different options to respond.
Yeah, it's just something where you look at something and you may have only thought about it in one way, and then someone comes along and just says something that hadn't occurred to you. And I really appreciate those moments.
G, you there? Come on, G. Put down your kebab. Pick up the microphone. G.
Oh, I saw the light come on, but no sound.
I saw the light too!
Yep. He's toying with us?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. There he is. G, as per contract signed, Section 2, Subsect 3, under the rules and regulations of Ofcom, you are permitted to ask this question. Please, carry on, sir.
Chris, apologies for this one. As you can hear, Bamm is quite eager that I ask it, so I shall do that. In all simplicity, the question is, what kind of bacon do you like? How do you like that bacon? And what kind of beverage, be it beer, cider, or something else, would you like to accompany said bacon?
Difficult question. I'm pretty simple when it comes to bacon. How many different types of bacon are there? Like, what am I allowed to choose from?
Well, anything. I mean, there's, you got smoked bacon, maple bacon, plenty of other options. Applewood smoked.
Bacon burger, bacon piles, bacon cheese and like bacon.
Yeah, well, bacon cheeseburger is always nice. I don't know. I don't really like, if you give me bacon, I'm just happy with that. I'm not really sure if I think too deeply about exactly what type of wood has smoked my bacon, but everything you described sounds good. I would go for any of it. As for beverages,
Well, didn't you say you live in New York City?
Yes,
Are you familiar with Brooklyn Brewery?
I am.
They actually do a fairly decent pale ale that would accompany a nice bacon burger really well.
That sounds pretty nice.
May I interject? You can have bacon on your burgerito. Accompany that with that pale ale, and oh my god, angels will be coming up from the sunshine. The clouds will part, the laser beam of light will hit upon your face, and everything will be right with the world.
That sounds a little dangerous. I'm not sure I'm up for that, but I'll look into it. Yeah, I don't know. I think so. One of the things I always wonder is just like a lot of burger places, at least in America, I don't know about elsewhere, are also milkshake, and I'm always too full after a burger or milkshake to have the other one. So it's just like, I don't know, it's wasted on me. It's like you have this place and it's like you have to make this difficult choice. And outside of interactive stories, I don't like making that difficult choice. I would like to have both of them, but I never really feel like I have enough room.
Can I say, as somebody who's traveled half the planet, the problem of not fitting a burger and a milkshake in your tummy is American. The rest of the world don't serve that big meals.
I could definitely go for a burger plus milkshake that would fit within my current stomach capacity.
Oh, man. If you ever make it to a place that has Slater's 50-50, you've got to try it. They put bacon in the burger meat when they cook it, and they have a maple bacon milkshake with bits of bacon in the milkshake that is phenomenal.
I'm there tomorrow.
Dang.
Where's this place? I'm there tomorrow. Where is this place up there tomorrow? Seriously.
Fly on over to San Diego, man. There's one not far from me.
Gotta have to stop off in New York. Get Chris a burgerito. A bacon burgerito. Because that poor boy is starving, clearly. I need to get him fat. Burgerito, man. Seriously, Chris, you've got to try one. It's delicious.
I'm pondering a New York-style pizza and with a lot of bacon on it. I don't know if all that cheese and all that bacon would work together.
They do.
They
do.
They do.
They do. Trust me, they do. Bacon and cheese go together like peas and carrots.
That's like my favorite type of pizza is bacon and ham.
But bacon is ham. It's like 2 bits of bacon.
I really must ask, what do you do whenever you have like a vegetarian on your show?
Oh, we bully them into the crowd.
Oh my goodness.
We actually have a vegan that actually works with us. His name is Grit. He does the graphics and so on. He is actually a vegan.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Wow.
A friend of mine actually works at a book publisher, like actual physical book publisher, and while they don't have a specific niche, they tend to make a lot of vegan cookbooks. Maybe I should just like create a interactive vegan cookbook where you just choose your own vegan adventure. I would never read it, but maybe someone would.
No. You need to make an interactive bacon cookbook.
Oh!
Okay.
I'd buy that.
That I might read.
No, on a funny note, whenever Grit tries to throw the old vegan lettuce leaf, tree hugging, juice drinking, whatever thing, I always comment to him, but bacon is a vegetable. I go and pick the old bacon leaves every day, and I eat bacon leaves. You know, bacon is a vegetable. You know,
Yeah, pick them right off the bacon tree.
Exactly. The bacon tree might be in a supermarket, and it might be in a package, but it's still the same thing, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, you're not picking your lettuce off of a tree.
Exactly. I get my lettuce from the store, don't I? Lettuce doesn't come off a tree. Yeah, exactly. See, Chris, you and I are on the same wavelength there, dude. In all seriousness, thank you very much. You are and have been a brilliant chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, thanks for coming on with us, man. I like that you guys are bringing this back because I haven't seen interactive stories since I was a kid, and I'm excited to actually, bring this kind of thing to my kid too, so that she can enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll have just more and more of these.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us on today's show. My name is Bamm Havoc, and today you've been listening to Chris from Adventure Cow and Draconusx. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Much love to all of you. Bye.